Heartwarming dinner turns life-changing. Discover the incredible text that revealed hidden danger. Sarah wiped her brow with the back of her hand, glancing at the clock. The annual potluck was hours away, and her famous meatloaf needed some serious love. As she mixed, memories flooded her mind, her father's hearty laugh, the way his meatloaf always vanished in minutes. That comfort now felt like a distant echo, drowned out by the silence between them. She wasn't just cooking for the neighborhood, she was cooking to mend the past with Jack, her estranged father, who had seen nightmares from Vietnam that never truly let him go. With each spoonful of ketchup, sugar, and spices, Sarah poured her heart into the dish. The kids were off at school, her little ones, Riley and Sam, imagining the familiar faces digging into her famous recipe. She pictured their delighted smiles, but the thought of Jack's impending arrival brought a tightness to her chest. Could she bridge the gap between them? Was her meatloaf enough to soften hardened hearts? As she made her way to the community center, the sweet scent of pies and savory casseroles enveloped her like a comforting blanket. Families gathered, laughter spilling into the hall as neighbors traded stories and recipes. But when Jack walked in, the laughter clipped to nervous murmurs. That shadow of a man, a war hero, yet a ghost at the dinner table, his weathered face and vacant eyes told stories of battles fought long ago. She instantly felt the crowd shift, the air thickening with unsaid words. An unexpected storm brewed between them, making the warm atmosphere feel suffocating. The meatloaf, still warm and fragrant, lost its magic as the clamor of the potluck faltered. Noticing the tension rise, she took a deep breath, wanting so much for this moment to be different. Suddenly, the atmosphere shattered. A friend of Jack's, eyes wide, pulled out his phone. The text alert echoed through the room like gunfire, a food contamination outbreak linked to a nearby factory. Panic rippled through the gathering as parents began to worry about their children's safety. Conversations erupted, food safety was questioned, and faces paled. Sarah's heart raced. What about her little restaurant? Could this ruin her chances to provide for Riley and Sam? Before continuing, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Amid the chaos, Sarah's personal fears threatened to overwhelm her, the fear of rejection from Jack, the fear of letting down her kids, the fear that their damaged relationship would be irrevocably shattered. They stood inches apart, lost in the storm of confusion and strained silence. Could she muster the courage to make things right, to share the memories that linked them, love and pain intertwined? Just as she took a step toward him, her heart pounding like a drum, the phone buzzed again, this time louder and more menacing. All eyes turned toward the screen, a whisper of dread sweeping through the crowd. Time froze, rich with potential for forgiveness, yet edged with uncertainty. Would they grasp this moment to reconnect, or would fear push them further apart? The air thickened with unease, and Sarah felt the weight of 100 eyes on her. Jack stood still, arms crossed, a wall between them, both literally and figuratively. The laughter had turned into anxious whispers and concerned glances. She could feel the heart of the potluck beating faster, a frantic rhythm echoed by her own racing pulse. Sarah, a voice called out, breaking the silence. It was Anne, a longtime neighbor, with an anxious frown. Do we know if your meatloaf is affected? The question hung heavy in the air, crystal clear. No, she protested, shaking her head. I made it from scratch this morning. But even as she said it, doubt crept in. What if she was wrong? What if the ingredients came from the factory in question? She glanced at her kids, who were blissfully unaware of the brewing storm. She couldn't let them down. She refused to let her motherly instinct waver under pressure. Jack shifted, his gaze wandering toward her, caught between resolve and a long-buried desire to reach out. For a moment, she saw a glimmer of the father she once knew, the one who used to lift her high into the air, with laughter that echoed through their home. Yet that facade quickly faded, replaced by the harsh reality of the man who had been absent for most of her life. "Jack, can we?" she began, the words trembling in her throat. She felt the raw ache of hope and fear entwined. This was her chance. Talk about their past, gaze into the heart of their silence, but the crowd pulsed with mounting expectations, tightening the space between them. "Let us not panic," Jack finally spoke, voice low but steady, cutting through the cacophony. "We need to check the sources of all the food, including Sarah's." His eyes shifted to her, searching for something: understanding, approval, maybe even a lifeline. "Are you implying that I might have poisoned the community?" Her voice rose, laced with anger and fear. "No," he replied, firm yet gentle. "But we need to be cautious." A heavy silence fell as she processed his words. Why couldn't he see how hard she had fought to keep everything together? The love she invested in every meal seemed to evaporate in the tension of the moment, as people whispered behind her back, eyes darting between them like they were the stars of a tragic play. "Let us just wait for more information," and suggested again, visibly on edge. "We shouldn't draw conclusions." Jack nodded, still studying Sarah's face as if weighing what to say next. He took a step closer, the distance between them shrinking, sparking an unsuspected flicker of hope within her heart. Perhaps they could navigate this together. Maybe this moment could allow them to peel back layers of hurt, revealing compassion just beneath the surface. "Sarah," he said, softer now. "I know things haven't been easy for either of us." Her breath caught in her throat. Did he really mean it? Sharing the burden of their loss, the anger, the love that once filled their home could be the key to healing, but before she could respond, sirens blared outside. The crisp sirens of emergency vehicles cut through the air, a jarring contrast to the chaotic turbulence within the community center. "What now?" someone shrieked, panic reigniting the room. The moment hung precariously close to collapse. Would they be forced to confront more than just the tenuous bridge between them? And what lay on the other side of this knot of uncertainty? Sarah's heart raced as she turned back to Jack, desperate and hopeful. "Jack, we..." But just then, the doors burst open, chaos spilling in like water breaking through a dam. The first responders flooded the space, the faces of confusion and urgency drawing closer. "Everyone!" an officer shouted, "we need to evacuate the building now." A gut-wrenching rush of uncertainty racked Sarah. The storm just hit its peak, but what would remain when the chaos settled? Would it be more than just fragmented memories, or would it plunge them deeper into their old wounds? The crowd surged back, a wave of limbs and hushed voices. Sarah felt the heat of panic ripple around her, each heartbeat matching the frantic drum of sirens outside. Nothing made sense anymore. The officer's command echoed in her ears, blending into the chaos like a haunting refrain. "Gather your things. Move quickly," he urged, directing people toward the exits with quick, authoritative gestures. Anxiety ignited among the crowd, a wildfire fueled by uncertainty. "Mom." Her son's small voice broke through the thrumming tension. His face was a mask of confusion, eyes wide as he clutched his little sister's hand. "What is happening?" Sarah knelt to meet their gaze, pushing her fear aside for the moment. "It's okay, sweetheart. We just need to go outside for a bit. Stay close to me." She kept her voice steady, but inside, her heart felt like it might leap from her chest. Every instinct screamed for safety, yet the surrounding anxiety was like heavy fog. Jack moved closer, eyes scanning the mass of terrified faces. "Sarah, we should hurry," he said, glancing toward the exit. His voice was low but insistent. "We can't risk any exposure until we understand what's going on." As the crowd surged again, Sarah took her children's hands, feeling the warmth of their small fingers intertwined with her own. "Stay together. I promise you're safe." But would she be able to keep that promise? They made their way slowly towards the doors, the chaos ahead of them a swirling mix of uncertainty and fear. Sarah felt a push at her back from others eager to escape, the urgency in the air almost palpable. She turned briefly to look at Jack, just as he caught her eye, a flash of something deep and meaningful passing between them. He seemed to remember the small joys in everyday life, the cooperation they once shared, the laughter of a family unburdened by grief. "Let me help," he said, reaching down to scoop up her daughter to carry her. "This way, you can focus on getting him out." The gentleness in his defense momentarily displaced the harsh reality. "Thank you," she whispered, overwhelmed. That small act of support ignited something inside her, a fragile hope that maybe they could navigate beyond their past. The buildings felt like they were encircling them, closing in as they neared the exit. Once outside, the crowd spaced out, revealing the clear blue sky a deceptive calm amid the chaos. The biting cold of the autumn air hit her, a stark contrast to the warmth they had left behind in the community center. They found a corner on the grass where a group gathered, some breathing deeply, others perched uncertainly on the ground. Emergency personnel set up a command center, ushering the worried townsfolk further away from the building. "Stay here," Sarah instructed with determination, huddling her children close. "I'll go find out what's going on." As she stepped forward, she felt Jack's presence behind her, back up in every sense. "I'll come with you," he said firmly. Together they pushed through the crowd, seeking answers. Whispers intensified around them, little bursts of fear, speculation, and dread. A few familiar faces, fraught with worry, offered fleeting glances as they passed. "Did you hear? A gas leak," someone murmured. "Hazmat team is here," another one gasped, heart pounding. Sarah's eyes darted from one anxious person to another, panic striking again. What was actually happening? What had they unknowingly walked into? Closer to the commotion, they saw an officer speaking with the fire chief, his face grave. "It's serious, but we can handle it. Just need everyone to stay calm." As Sarah stood there, Jack caught her eye again, their silent exchange sparking the frail connection between them. The need to confront their past felt more urgent than ever, but the present loomed heavy and uncertain. "This is all my fault," she muttered, and the words slipped out before she could take them back. Jack's brow furrowed. "No, it's not. We're in this together." She could feel his warmth, his resolve threading through her uncertainty like a life raft. Would they find clarity amidst the chaos? Could they find a way past years of hurt if they survived this moment together? Yet, as they awaited information, a chilling realization hit her. Was the danger truly external, or was their fractured bond in the midst of an even deeper threat? Just then, a distant wail of a siren pierced the air, cutting through her thoughts like glass, pointing towards an ominous new development. What else could come crashing down? The sound of the siren grew louder, its wailing reverberating through Sarah's chest like a warning drum. She could feel the air thickening around her, charged with electricity and dread. Jack's grip tightened on her shoulder, grounding her even as the world spun with uncertainty. "What do you think that means?" he asked, his voice edged with worry. What could it possibly mean? Sarah's reply came out as a half-whisper, more a reflection of her own rising anxiety than an actual question. With the ghost of hope flickering, she found herself searching the crowd for reassurances, but all she saw were silhouettes of fear. In that moment, a delegate from the fire department approached, determination set in his features. "We need everyone to remain calm," he called, authority slicing through the noise. "Emergency updates will be announced shortly. For now, we're assessing the situation." His gaze met Sarah's, and she could see the shadows of concern etched deep within his eyes, mirroring the unease swelling inside her. "Stay close to me," she murmured to Jack and the kids. They huddled together, her son gripping her hand tightly while her daughter nestled against Jack's shoulder, a small bundle of innocence amid the tangible tension. As seconds stretched into what felt like hours, Sarah tried to steal a glimpse of the scene beyond the people. In the distance, flashing lights painted the afternoon with a surreal glow. The hazmat suit-clad figures were busy, alert, and focused. They moved with purpose, their urgency burning in stark contrast to the stillness that had gripped the gathering crowd. How did this even happen? Jack broke the silence. "A gas leak?" It doesn't make sense. It can't just happen without warning. Sarah nodded, but in her heart, something else tugged. It feels more than that. Like it came out of nowhere. Jack glanced at her, a shared understanding blooming between them. Whatever it is, we'll figure it out. Together. Her breath caught as a rush of memories flooded her mind, the laughter over dinner, the elegance of simple moments they once shared unhindered by doubts. This chaos outside felt like an external manifestation of the turmoil within their relationship. Memories flickered, bright and warm, colliding with the cold, unsettling reality they faced. Then, amid the tumult, a series of loud shouts erupted. The officer she'd seen earlier was now sprinting toward the command tent, his expression grave. "Everyone, stay calm. We need to evacuate the area. There's been a confirmation of hazardous materials detected on site." A collective gasp echoed around them. Panic surged anew, an animal instinct to flee taking root in Sarah's chest. Beside her, she felt Jack's hesitance and then his decision to move closer, wrapping an arm protectively around her waist as they both stood still, fighting against the tide of fear. "Mom, what's happening?" Sam's small voice trembled. His eyes flitted between the chaos and his mother's face, desperately seeking reassurance. "It's okay, buddy. Just stay near us," she replied, although her own crisis of confidence wavered like a candle's flame in the wind. The crowd began to disperse, a wave of frightened individuals surging toward the designated exit points. Sarah didn't want to get caught up in the throngs, but their vulnerability echoed in her heart. What could they do in this moment? "Should we get back inside?" Jack suggested, urgency painting his words. "No, we need to go. I can feel it, Jack. This isn't just about gas. There's something more. The kids can't be in danger. We have to get out." With determination, she turned to lead her family toward the exit, but just as they stepped forward, a loud explosion erupted behind them, sending shocks through the air. Fear ignited anew, the need for survival pulsing through her veins. "Mom!" Sam screamed as the ground under them rattled. Again, Sarah felt Jack's hand tightening around her. Amid the tumult, her heart raced. Could they really find their way through this terrifying ordeal together? Would they emerge as a family reborn or broken further apart? And as chaos consumed the air around them, Sarah couldn't shake the sense that this was only the beginning of something much larger than they could imagine. Sarah felt the ground tremble beneath her feet, a shocking reminder of their precarious existence. The explosion echoed in her ears like a relentless heartbeat, driving her instincts into overdrive. "Run!" Jack shouted, his voice cutting through the haze of fear. It snapped her back to reality, igniting her feet into motion. The crowd surged around them, a restless sea of panic and confusion. She felt Sam's small hand, warm and sweaty in her own, as they stumbled through the throng, weaving through random bodies, wide eyes and terror-shadowed faces. "Mom! Where are we going?" Sam cried out, his voice strained and high-pitched. "Just keep holding on," she urged him, clutching tighter as they navigated toward the exits. A loud cacophony of voices surrounded them, drowning out thoughts of anything other than survival. Sarah's mind raced, thoughts spiraling between the needs of her children and the overwhelming urgency of the moment. She couldn't let fear consume them. Jack walked backwards for a moment, scanning the increasingly chaotic scene behind them. "We need to stick together. Make sure Lily is close." Sarah turned to see her daughter still huddled against Jack's side, eyes wide, yet she bore a look of quiet strength that surprised Sarah. "Lily, don't let go of Dad, okay?" The little girl nodded, her expression resolute. In that moment, Sarah saw a flicker of the strength they'd built as a family, a bond they had fought to maintain. They would go through this together. They had to. They pushed past the crowd, urgency mounting as they reached a barricade manned by first responders. The air was thick with the stench of smoke and a sickly sweet chemical odor that turned her stomach. Panic rose again as Sarah's instinct screamed, they needed air, clarity, safety. As they drew closer, an officer opened a path. This way, quickly but calmly. His deep voice carried authority laced with anxiety. They squeezed through, the gap narrowing behind them, a lifeline from the clamor. Through the chaos, Sarah's heart was weighed down by a troubling thought: what if something was worse? What if they were running into something far more dangerous? She caught Jack's gaze, and he must have felt it too, the fear intertwined with resolve. "Stay close," Jack said, turning to look back at the officer. "What is happening? What do we need to know?" "Hazardous materials. We cannot be too sure of how widespread it is. Just keep moving." His words were clipped, urgency framing them like a box of sharp edges. As they hurried away from the initial chaos, Sarah felt her breath quicken as the distance between them and the explosion grew. But then she heard another booming sound, smaller this time, a thud that sent tremors through her position, grounding her to the spot. "What now?" she shouted, her voice nearly lost in the fray, her mind racing to comprehend the threat behind that sound. "We have to take cover," Jack replied, his expression hardening, protective instincts rising. Her heart pounded in her chest as adrenaline coursed through her. Just as they turned, an uncomfortable sense of déjà vu knotted her stomach. She had to protect the kids at all costs. But they were still so young, still walking through the world with wide-eyed wonder. "Jack!" she exclaimed, her voice shaking slightly now. But in that moment, amidst the clamor of tires screeching and distant shouts, she saw something flicker off to the side, a shimmer amid the confusion, some kind of hope. "Look! Over there!" She pointed towards a clearing that seemed free of chaos. It felt like a siren call, beckoning her family to safety. What lay ahead wasn't just a path to escape. It was the chance for them to regroup, to find their footing again in a world that felt turned upside down. "Let us go," Jack urged, urging them forward. But as they began their new sprint, dread settled back over Sarah. What if this path held unseen dangers? What would they find waiting down the line? And above it all, a lingering thought haunted her: with every step they took, was the storm only just beginning? They raced toward the clearing, the shouts and cries from behind fading into a cacophony of distant panic. The air felt different here, less oppressive, as if a thin veil of hope had settled between them and the chaos. Sarah clung to Sam's hand, her heart thumping loudly in her ears, matching the deafening silence of their small sanctuary. Jack led the way, a sentinel in a protective stance, eyes scanning for danger. Lily, glued to her father's side, didn't let go even as the world turned topsy-turvy. Sarah took a deep breath, urging herself to stay strong. They had made it this far. They had to keep moving. "Is it safe here?" Sam asked, glancing up at her, his innocent eyes wide with fear and uncertainty. Sarah knelt to meet him at eye level. "It's a little bit better, honey," she said, her voice soothing, though the uncertainty gnawed at her. "Just stay close, okay? We're together. That's what matters. Promise you'll keep me safe?" he pleaded, and the fragility in his voice pierced through her, making her heart ache. "I promise," she said, squeezing his hand. In that moment, she meant it with every fiber of her being. She vowed to shield her children from whatever lurked in the ever-thickening shadows. They continued further into the clearing, but the dread hung thick in the air. More sirens blared in the distance, and the sky above darkened, clouds swirling ominously above them, matching the chaos brewing inside her. Suddenly, Jack stopped short, scanning the horizon. "Look!" He pointed toward a figure emerging from the thinning smoke. Sarah squinted, her anxiety eclipsed by curiosity. The figure drew closer, moving cautiously but steadily. "Please tell me it's not another explosion," she muttered, half to herself. The figure, clad in a faded uniform, raised their hands halfway as they approached. "I'm a medic," they yelled. "Anyone hurt? I can help." Relief washed over Sarah, but wariness lingered. Jack stepped forward, his protective instinct flaring once more. "We're fine, but we need to know what is going on. There are kids here. The medic nodded, eyes scanning the group. I understand. We're evacuating everyone away from the scene. There's a containment zone being set up nearby. You should come with me. Containment zone? Jack said, a note of disbelief creeping into his voice. What does that mean? Is it safe? Safer than here, the medic replied sharply. The explosions were just the start. We're dealing with toxic materials. If you stay here longer, the risk to your kids goes up. Please follow me. An unsettling jolt shot through Sarah at the realization. Toxic materials. What could they have been exposed to? What else hadn't they heard or understood? It sent her heart racing again, a cycle of panic and determination swirling within her. Will you help us? She asked, desperation leaking into her tone. We have to protect our family. Absolutely. That's why I'm here. The medic stepped aside, gesturing for them to follow. We need to move quickly, though. They hesitated, but the tension in the air clung to them like the oppressive heat of the moments before a storm. Jack nodded first, turning to Sarah. We can't stay. Okay, she whispered, inhaling deeply as they stepped forward. She felt Sam's small frame next to her and Lily holding tightly to Jack's side. The threat from the explosion loomed behind them like a shadow, but they couldn't dwell on it now. Survival meant looking ahead. As they walked, a worry crept back into Sarah's mind, looming large. What awaited them in the containment zone? Were they truly safe? With every step, she sensed the world still spinning out of control, but they had to face it together. Suddenly, a loud crack echoed nearby, and Sarah's stomach dropped. What was that? A startling realization washed over her. This was only the beginning, the real danger was still out there, waiting for them to discover just how deep the chaos truly ran. As they approached the medic, heavy dread lingered behind their determined strides. What awaited them in the safety of the shelter? Could they truly protect the ones they loved? And, most pressingly, how deep did this danger lie? The medic moved with urgency, leading them through the underbrush, the shadows of trees enveloping them like a cloak. Sarah could feel a weight pressing on her chest. It was a strange blend of fear and hope, each step resonating with the rhythm of her pounding heart. Sam and Lily clung to her sides, their small bodies radiating anxiety, mirroring her own. Is it far? Jack asked, glancing back, his brow furrowed. Just a little further. We'll be safe soon, the medic assured, casting a quick glance over their shoulders. The distant sounds of chaos faded slightly with every step, but anxiety lingered in the air, thick like fog. As they moved deeper into the thicket, they came upon a clearing that felt almost surreal. Makeshift tents sprawled across the open area, illuminated by the flickering glow of lanterns. People huddled together, some tending to others while others stood vigil, faces etched with worry. Sarah could see children, some playing, others being comforted by parents. It was both a heartwarming sight and a stark reminder of their vulnerability. Stay close to me, Sarah urged, keeping her grip tight on Sam's hand. The medic led them to a larger tent, a bright red cross emblem fluttering at the entrance. Right this way. We'll get your kids checked out. Stepping inside, they were met with the smell of antiseptic and a whirlwind of activity. Several medics moved about, attending to individuals seated on cots. The sight both comforted and terrified Sarah. This was the help they needed, but was it enough? Are we going to be okay? Lily asked, her voice trembling as she clung to Jack. Of course, sweetheart. They're going to take good care of us, Jack replied, pulling both children closer, his own unease masked by his need to reassure them. The medic turned to Sarah. Have they had any symptoms? Coughing, watery eyes. No, I mean, not that I've noticed, she stammered, worry creeping back into her voice. Is there something we should worry about? Let us just get them checked. We don't know the extent of exposure yet. The medic gestured to an available cot, motioning for them to sit. As they settled in, Sarah forced herself to breathe, watching each child as they were gently examined. A nurse came over with a smile, but her eyes held a seriousness that Sarah couldn't ignore. I'll need to ask you some questions about what you experienced earlier, the nurse said, urgency creeping into her voice. It's crucial we understand. Before she could finish, a loud crash erupted outside. The tent rattled, and Sarah felt the ground shake beneath her. Panic swept through the room, mothers gathering their children, fear reflected in their eyes. Jack shot to his feet. What was that? He exchanged a glance with Sarah, alarm spreading across his face. Stay here. The medic shouted, lunging for the exit. They were all on edge, gripping the edges of hope and horror. Sarah's heart raced as she bit her lip, desperately trying to quell the sense of dread threatening to engulf them. We shouldn't have come here, she whispered, feeling the ground beneath them tremble again, sharper this time. Suddenly, the nurse rushed back in, her face pale. We need to evacuate this area. Now. A surge of fear washed over Sarah. Would they ever escape this nightmare? As they moved toward the back exit of the tent, voices raised outside and shouts of unfamiliar commands echoed, crashing into them like waves. Would they find safety in this chaos? Or was this just another layer of a spiraling nightmare? Follow me. The medic yelled again, his urgency fueling her own. But as they rushed toward the exit, an overwhelming thought struck Sarah. What if the true danger still awaited them, lurking in the shadows of their new sanctuary? Sarah's mind raced as they bolted for the exit. The sounds of chaos outside grew louder, boots pounding the ground, muffled screams, and the sharp sound of metal clashing against metal. It was overwhelming. The medic pushed aside the flaps of the tent with an urgency that made Sarah's stomach twist. Once outside, the brightness of the lanterns contrasted sharply with the darkening sky. Buttressed by fear, she squinted into the gloom. Shadows slinked between the tents like phantoms, stalking the innocent. Jack held tightly to both kids, his expression set in fierce determination. Let us move. The medic shouted, looking around as though trying to discern the safest way. Sarah felt herself being pulled along by adrenaline, fear biting at her heels. In her heart, she prayed for a safe passage through the mayhem. They rushed past cots where families huddled, their faces pale and uncertain, eyes darting around like startled deer. Where are we going? Sam asked, his small voice cutting through the clamor, dripping with confusion. To safety. Jack replied, though uncertainty seeped into his tone, just as it had in Sarah's heart. As they rounded a corner of the tent, another crash echoed, closer this time. The ground shook beneath them again. Sarah stumbled, her children leaning into her for support. The medic steadied her with a hand on her shoulder. Just keep moving. He insisted, urgency written in his features. With every hurried step, Sarah felt a gnawing sensation in her gut, not just fear for her children but an overwhelming sense of dread. They were escaping one nightmare, but at what cost? She caught glimpses of injured people being carried past, faces that mirrored her own terror. Then she saw them, a group of armed guards moving through the chaos, barking orders. They were commanding and authoritative but also intimidating. One of them caught sight of Sarah and Jack, and for a moment, she couldn't breathe. Stay down. The medic shouted, pulling them closer to the ground. Sarah felt the icy grip of panic claw at her insides. What do they want? Lily whispered, her eyes wide with fear. Sarah glanced at Jack. He was pale but resolute. They'll protect us, he said, though the uncertainty hung in the air. Everyone, calm down. A voice boomed, and Sarah recognized him as the medic who had initially welcomed them. We're securing the perimeter. Move quickly but don't panic. But how could anyone not panic? The world felt like it was crumbling, each crash echoing an ominous threat. With no clear path forward, Sarah felt eyes upon her, questioning, fearful, assessing. Were they truly safe anywhere? Suddenly, a flicker of light caught her attention. Sarah turned to see the medic's flashlight beam bouncing wildly in the distance. It fell upon a small door, half hidden behind a stack of crates. It looked like an immediate escape route. "This way!" Sarah shouted, her voice breaking through the chaos. She felt a spark of hope ignite within her. The medic led the way, moving swiftly toward the door. They had to make it. They had to find safety. As they approached, one of the guards shouted, "Stop! What are you doing?" The medic held up his hands, a mixture of determination and fear in his eyes. "We need to protect these civilians." For a split second, it felt like time held its breath. The tension was palpable, every heartbeat loud in the silence that followed. Then, just as the guard stepped forward, another loud crash reverberated nearby, and the ground shook again violently. This time, it felt different, a terror so real it made their very bones rattle. "Go! Now!" the medic urged, shoving the door open with fierce urgency. With that, they plunged into darkness, uncertainty swirling around them like the night air. What awaited them on the other side? Would this escape lead to safety, or was it just a deeper plunge into the unknown? The darkness enveloped them like a thick fog, blocking out the sounds of chaos they had just fled. Sarah stumbled through the door, her heart racing against her ribcage. Were they truly safe? She couldn't shake the feeling they had just traded one nightmare for another. The medic led the way, flashlight beam cutting through the dark, revealing a narrow corridor lined with peeling paint and crumbling bricks. It felt claustrophobic and terrifying. Sarah hesitated, her grip on Lily and Sam tightening as fear whispered in her ear. "What lies ahead?" "Keep going," the medic called back, his voice steady but tinged with an undercurrent of urgency. "We're almost there." Jack moved forward, pushing past the uncertainty gripping Sarah. "Let us not wait," he murmured, leading the children behind the medic. Every step felt monumental, each sound trickling through the cracks of her resolve. They rounded a corner, and Sarah's breath hitched as she caught a glimpse of light flickering at the end of the corridor. Hope trickled in, igniting a spark in her chest. But before she could give voice to her relief, a clatter echoed behind them, bodies charging through the darkness, boots pounding the ground like thunder. "Quickly!" the medic urged, panic now threading through his calm demeanor. "They're coming!" The corridor felt interminable, with shadows weaving in and out of her vision. Sarah felt the children clinging to her, their small bodies trembling, and she pressed her lips together to stifle a scream. "We're okay. Just stay close," she whispered, forcing courage into her words. They reached the light, and Sarah leaned into it, catching her breath as they stepped into what appeared to be a storage room overflowing with crates and forgotten supplies. "Is this safe?" Sam asked, tugging on his mother's arm, his small face marked with worry. "For now," the medic replied, urgency flashing in his eyes. They only had moments to regroup. "Listen closely. We need to barricade the door." "If they find us?" "No," Sarah interjected, shaking her head fiercely. "We can't hide forever. We have to find a way out, a way to get away from this." Jack's gaze met hers, a silent conversation passing between them. "What if we double back, retrace our steps?" "There must be another exit," he suggested, his jaw set firmly. The medic's eyes darted between them, weighing their options. "Risky, but it may be the only plan we have." Without a word, Sarah nodded, steeling her heart for whatever lay ahead. They were a family, they would face this together. With renewed resolve, they pulled back, stealthily making their way down the corridor once again. The sounds of pursuit faded, replaced by their racing hearts echoing in their ears. But Sarah felt a flicker of defiance bloom within her. She wouldn't let fear dictate their fate. Then, as they rounded another dark corner, Sarah felt a sudden rush of cold air. She stopped, her heart racing as she caught sight of a faint outline, a door, slightly ajar, whispering promises of freedom. "Over there." She pointed, feeling invigorated. They dashed toward it, but just as they reached the handle, she heard another crash behind them. The guards were closer now, and fear surged within her. "Hurry!" she urged, but then hesitation gripped her again. "What if we run into more of them? There's no choice," Jack yelled, urgency blazing in his voice. "We have to risk it." The door creaked open, revealing a sliver of that starlit night outside. But the darkness inside loomed more significant than ever. What awaited them beyond the threshold? Would they step into freedom or straight into danger? As Sarah took a deep breath, she wondered if she could ever escape the shadow of fear that hung over them. Could they truly find the safety they yearned for? As Sarah stepped through the door, a rush of cool air hit her, a stark contrast to the chaos they had just left behind. The stars twinkled above, the vast expanse of night offering both beauty and solace. Jack, holding Lily tightly, stepped out behind her, and Sam followed close, their breaths coming in quick bursts. For a fleeting moment, the world felt calm. "Where are we?" Sam whispered, his small voice tinged with hope. "Somewhere safe," Sarah replied, though her heart trembled with uncertainty. The forest around them felt both inviting and ominous, shadows lurking beneath the trees as they clung together, each heartbeat echoing the pounding of their fears. "We have to keep moving," Jack urged, scanning their surroundings. Fear still resided in his eyes, but there was a newfound determination as well. It was as if this night had pulled them all together, weathering the storm that had threatened to tear them apart. "Right," Sarah agreed, squeezing Sam's hand. "Just stay close, and don't let go." The sun might have vanished, but she felt the warmth of something it had left behind. Hope. They trudged forward, heartbeats syncing with the rustle of leaves and the soft crunch of underbrush beneath their feet. Each familiar sound transformed into a reminder of the bond they were rekindling, a reminder that they had each other to lean on. Finally, they approached a small cabin nestled at the foot of the forest. It looked run down, with peeling paint and overgrown weeds, yet it felt like a sanctuary. "What do you think?" Jack asked, taking a step toward the door. "It's a chance," Sarah nodded. "After everything tonight, we deserve a chance." As they entered the cabin, a flood of musty air enveloped them. The interior was simple old furniture covered with dust, a wood stove in the corner, and a small table with a few mismatched chairs. But amidst the decay, there was also a sense of safety, of being removed from the chaos that lurked outside. "Let us keep this door closed," Jack suggested, securing it behind them. Sarah watched her children, their expressions transforming from fear to curiosity. They were still together, the closeness of their bodies echoed the warmth in their hearts. Lily looked up at her dad, eyes shining. "Are we safe now?" Jack knelt beside her. "For tonight, yeah. We're safe here." There was a resolve in his voice, an echo of the father he always wanted to be. Sarah felt a surge of appreciation for Jack, the man she had fought with and stayed away from for far too long. "Thank you for being here," she said softly. "Tonight was I don't even know how to describe it." Jack sighed heavily. "The fear, the moments I lost, they finally opened my eyes. I am so sorry I wasn't there for you. For both of you." It hung in the air, the unspoken words, each piece of their fractured relationship finding a way to reconnect. "I can be better," he vowed, determination lighting his gaze. "I want us to be a family again." Riley had been listening, his small heart absorbing their words. "So we're not broken?" he asked, a flicker of hope sparking in his innocent eyes. "Not if we stick together," Sarah affirmed, drawing her children close. It was simple, but it bore truth. They didn't have to remain tangled in fear and unresolved pain, they could build something new. As the night deepened outside, the tension eased. They gathered around the old table, a sense of safety wrapping around them as they sat together for the first time in ages. No chaos, no strife, just raw, honest connections. "Tell me about your day," Sarah prompted, her voice light, the weight of the world dropping from her shoulders. They began to share stories, mostly the silly, light-hearted ones that mattered to kids their age. Laughter bubbled up into the room, transforming the cabin into a home again, even if just for the night. Amidst the warmth and laughter, an overwhelming realization settled within Sarah's heart: they were not just surviving, they were transforming. They were weaving threads of love and trust back into the fabric of their family, even if it felt like they were starting from scratch. Tomorrow, she started, we'll go home together. We'll make new memories, holidays, dinners, all those little moments we've missed. Jack smiled, a genuine light spreading across his face. And I'll be there, every step of the way. It's time we made up for lost time. Together, Sarah agreed, squeezing their hands tightly. Her heart soared beyond the chaotic night they had survived. Their bond, once torn apart, was now renewed. And that was a beautiful first step. They could rebuild. They would rebuild. As they settled in for the night, wrapped in the love surrounding them, Sarah whispered silently to herself, "We're going to be okay." She felt it in every inch of her being. They had weathered the storm and emerged stronger. As the quiet settled around them like a gentle shroud, Sarah knew this was only the beginning. Together, they would find their way, hand in hand, heart to heart. Make sure you hang on to this feeling. You need to subscribe now to not miss the next exclusive stories of resilience and transformation. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Your support truly makes a difference. Comment below and share your feelings about the ending. Every voice matters. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to experience this journey of healing and hope. Only true fans understand the importance of your support.